Good evening. I'm Ruth Burge, Executive Director of Vision Henderson County. Welcome to Vision Alumni's Leading During Challenging Times. Thank you for joining us this evening. And thank you to Kimberly Clark, which is the Vision Alumni Events sponsor. And thank you to Blue Ridge Community College, where we are right now, as well as the Henderson County Chamber of Commerce. I would now like for you to welcome the Vision Alumni Advisory Group Chairman, Mr. Steve Orr.
Thank you, Ruth. I appreciate that. And we're very excited tonight to have this great group of speakers. And we look forward to hearing their information and hope it's helpful to all of you. One of the things that we're going to do tonight is we will take questions, and those will come in at the end of the speaker who is currently up. And I'll take those questions, and then we'll be able to forward those on to the speaker. So let us start with first Dr. Millicent Burke Sinclair. She's president and CEO with Four Seasons, The Care You Trust.
Hello and good evening. Thank you so much for joining in. You know, it's a privilege to get to be here together today and share about our commitment to the community. At Four Seasons, The Care You Trust, we provide care for hospice and palliative patients, as well as other services such as care navigation and personal care, clinical research, trials, and we have a tremendous opportunity to partner with our community to make care possible. And we serve 13 counties. Henderson County is where we originated back 41 years ago. And this year, around March, certainly we experienced something like none other. One thing that comes to my mind about the commitment and the continued practice is our mission. Our mission is to co-create the care experience. I love to add the term in there, co-create the best care experience, because our patients, our families, our employees, our volunteers, donors, and so many people alike have a common story. That common story is a common story of care, of love, and of life. And so when we were faced with what we've all been faced with, we said, what matters most is that we can continue to co-create. And as we co-create, we ask that question, what's most important? Two things come to mind on that we've continued to allow to drive and focus our efforts to ensure that all individuals that come within our path are well protected. Number one is safety. Safety of our employees, of our patients, of our families, volunteers, donors, everyone that comes along. And number two, technology. So one thing that's been really imperative across continuing to provide care, 13 counties, lots of different ways that we provide care, is having the technology to provide the care that's most appropriate. Whether it's continuing to go face-to-face and see those patients and families day after day, we've continued to do that. Whether it's having a space at an inpatient unit or a senior center or a hospital, we've continued to do that day after day. And that's who we are, providing care wherever one calls home. But another area that we've been really fortunate to be able to participate in is telehealth options. So when COVID began, and still to this day, it's been really important that we've been sensitive to the needs and the desires of patients and families, as well as our own employees. And so leveraging technology has been really important. And so when you talk about being in a learning mode, that has been definitely a key pillar of our resiliency value. At Four Seasons, we have value that spells see brighter: compassion, balance, respect, integrity, teamwork, excellence, and resilience. And I tell you, just like I said today to a large group of our employees, is that resilience has been really key during this time. And so when we talk about safety, it's like what you saw me come in with. Multiple masks, it's hand sanitizers, it's the appropriate PPE. So regardless of if you work in your home, if you work in an office, if you work from your car or at the bedside, you are incredibly safe. We've done a great job with that because of our employees, because of the patients and families, and those coming together to say our community matters and we want to play our part. And so we've been really fortunate to continue to have that commitment, to have resources across our community, across our state, and really across the U.S. to be able to continue to provide that commitment to safety so we can provide that best co-created care. And I wonder if anything I've said has already led to some questions or some thoughts in your mind. I'm going to pause now and see. Okay. So if you do have questions about how we've ensured safety, how we've ensured that our employees are well supported, that our patients and families still have access to the care that they need and they deserve, feel free to chat that in. One of the areas I would like to unpack a little bit more is that key word that I said is resilience. So much in life, there's challenge, there's change. We go through different seasons. Well, the beauty of what we've gone through, which has been really, really challenging, and still is that commitment to patients, families, employees, volunteers, donors, everyone in our community, because we truly want to make sure that people have the care they need whenever they need it. So partnering with the local communities across the 13 counties has been really, really important. Partnering across our state and even nationally. Four Seasons, as I shared earlier, has been around for 41 years or so. And we're a part of a larger conglomerate that is a part of 5 states, and then a part of even larger that's national. And what I mean by that is Four Seasons is a local independent nonprofit organization to provide serious illness care. And when we were faced with serious challenges with COVID over the past months, we've had to be able to bond together with our community, whether it's the school system, because certainly we have parents with children. They've done a tremendous job. Whether it's working with grocery stores or suppliers to make sure that individuals have what they need. It's been an honor for us to do that. But again, it comes from a place of that commitment of co-creating the best care, ensuring that everyone we come in contact with is safe and has the supplies and support that they need to continue to be safe, and leveraging technology to make sure that whether an employee needs to be able to accommodate and work from home, or from a car, or an office, or traditionally at the bedside, we can do it safely, we can do it timely, and we can continue our commitment. So again, I'm going to pause now and see if there's been any thoughts or questions that you have that I can answer for you this evening.
I don't believe so, Dr.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. And if you ever do have a thought or a question, I would love to take those. You can look me up on the website at fourseasonscfl.org. But thank you for how you're continuing to have a commitment to helping your community. And just by you participating tonight has continued to show that. And we're honored to continue to do that all across Western North Carolina. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sinclair. Now we would like to introduce Ernest Humphreys. He's the site manager of Kimberly-Clark Corporation.
Hey, good evening. Leading in challenging times. Believe it or not, one of our biggest issues in the March timeframe was toilet paper. Many of you realize that toilet paper was not available in stores, so that's one thing that we as Kimberly-Clark, we make Cottonelle toilet paper. So clearly we were not going to let that be an obstacle for our employees. We were able to bring in a truckload of about 400 cases of toilet paper that we were able to hand out to our employees. And we also set up a care package for truckers. If you might imagine that, truckers were not even able to get toilet paper, wipes. We put a care package together that also included Gatorade, water, snacks, things of that nature so that they could continue doing their jobs as well. What we found with our business continuity plan, we already had business continuity plans in place. Clearly, we did not have a scenario with the current pandemic outlined in it, but we did have labor shortage, raw material shortages, things of that nature. So we took those pieces and we built a comprehensive plan to continue to operate. So the first thing that we wanted to do was to protect our workers. So we started out with the temperature checks. We used the temperature guns. We started outside, clearly realized quickly that the temperatures were too low outside if the weather was too cool. So we moved all of our temperature checks inside. So that's one point of advice that I would give as well is you have to be willing to check and adjust. You start somewhere, but then you have to see what's working, what's not working. From there, with hand sanitizers, we were very early on with that. We decided to actually purchase in bulk. So we purchased 55-gallon drums and found that to be the easiest way to transfer into the smaller containers. So always trying to think on our feet and be first to make sure that we got the supplies we needed to protect our employees. Obviously, social distancing, things of that nature are things that we did. We also put half of our leadership team is only assigned to work with certain crews. We have 4 crews, A, B, C, and D. So I was initially assigned to C and D with another 4 or 5 leadership team members, and the other half of the team was assigned to A and B. And what we would do is just make sure that there was no overlap. So if there was an event where we had a positive test, that we would not have the issue with spread amongst the leadership team and wipe out the entire leadership team, or wipe out multiple crews and not be able to operate our equipment. The second thing we wanted to do is protect our consumers, right? So making sure that we had product available. We have been very fortunate that our employees have really taken the opportunity to adhere to our standards, and we've had minimal impact to the operation. As you might imagine, you still have your FMLA situations, you have your family illnesses and other things that still happen in the midst of COVID-19 and quarantines and things of that nature. So every day someone asked, what is it like to manage the facility every day? And I would tell you it's like a puzzle, right? It's like you put the puzzle together for that day, and then somebody comes and tears it apart, and you've got to put it back together the next day because you don't know who's going to show up for work that morning. So you figure out who's available, what are the skill sets you have, and then you go from there in terms of continuing the operation. The third thing we wanted to do was protect our community. We did not want to be a super spreader, right? So our diligence with COVID precautions and things of that nature, we demanded that our employees do that. That's just an expectation to wear your mask, to do the various things that we need them to do, sanitize their hands frequently. We set up our conference rooms to make sure that we didn't have more than the sufficient number of people in break rooms and things of that nature. So our employees were very responsive to that. And then as far as leadership, just being patient and don't panic. Don't go out and buy toilet paper, right? That's the thing that we wanted to make sure that everyone understands. And I'll hum a few bars actually on toilet paper. We have a washroom business, so if you go into a restroom and you see a Kimberly-Clark fixture, that's called our washroom business. Well, when people stopped traveling, that business actually slowed up quite a bit. So all of the capacity that was available for washrooms and traveling, hotels, things of that nature, that capacity became available to now be used for home use, some of it, right? So there's no need to buy toilet paper and think we're going to run out of toilet paper, because it's going to be readily available if everybody only gets what they need. We can all have that. So wanted to make sure I explained that piece of it. And what I found is, I heard earlier the word resilience. Our workers and leadership team in particular has been really resilient with the changes. There was a time we were meeting corporate-wide, or at least in North America, all the leaders, about 80 people. We were meeting daily as everything started kicking off in March. And in the last couple of months, we've gone to monthly meetings. So very rigid cadence on the different standards that we would put in place to make sure that we kept our employees safe. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be more than willing to answer those at this time.
Doesn't look like we have any. So I think we're good.
Okay, well, thank you for the opportunity to share with you what we're doing at Kimberly-Clark, and it's a great community to be in, and we thank you for this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Humphreys. And next, we have Bert Lemkes, who's the General Manager of Tri-Histal, and look forward to hearing his comments.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak at this event. leading in challenging times. First, I want to give consideration to all those that have lost family members through this whole crisis, because I like to bring something positive and uplifting, but understand at the same time that there's been a lot of hurt. A challenge always is an opportunity. And in our business and in most businesses around us, that has been the motto for operations. Look at what can be done. In that whole approach to opportunities, it's important to keep a few things in mind. One is skills versus mindset. How do you think? How do you approach the problems? It's one thing to stay calm. And when this whole crisis started, it was, you didn't know what was going to happen. And then staying calm towards your employees that are know just as much as you do, which is scary. It's important to keep up a positive approach in times of uncertainty. And definitely at the beginning, it was very difficult to say what was going to happen. A lot of people got into gardening, agriculture, horticulture. So I want to illustrate what you can do during an event where you have these challenges and opportunities. One is pull the weeds. If you have a garden, you know what that is. Keep your head clear of all the disturbances and make decisions not based on fear of emotions, which is difficult when you deal with these kind of situations. I always like to say, talk to yourself, don't listen to yourself. There's a balance between faith and fear. You can't eliminate fear, but you can build your faith and reduce the fear. Keep that balance constantly in your head. Keep fertilizing. Again, the garden, there's always better ways, better ideas that you can implement. And we've seen that in many businesses, that there are other things, or that there are certain things that can be done in a different way. Be ahead of others. That's an opportunity. If it's easy, anybody can do it. If it's difficult, that's an opportunity. Innovation is driven by these challenges, by these opportunities. You got to let go of the old, of the way we used to do it. Care for the whole garden. Everybody in and around your business is important. Obviously, the employees and your customers. In our case, we sell to farmers, which also we're dealing with initially. In March, it was scary when farmers were plowing up fields with good vegetables. Luckily, that all straightened out soon. Keep also in mind when you are dealing with these kind of challenges that, as an illustration, a director of an orchestra or a choir turns his back on the audience. So put your focus where it is. What is first, most important, is your employees, because that's what keeps the business going. Motivate people during these difficult times. Don't light a fire under them, light a fire in them. Send flowers. My background's horticulture, so that's what we like to promote, but be thankful for all you have. There is a lot of places in this world that have to deal with different circumstances, and we are going through difficult times, but we are still blessed with an incredible health system. Keep with that, with sending the flowers, customers and employees in mind. Let the positive drive your leadership. Smell the roses. Celebrate success. When things go right, and that you hope that works, then obviously you share appreciation with those that are part of it. But things didn't always go right. There were problems. I mean, we dealt with those. Then it's important as a leader within a business to encourage those that are part of the negative results. The positive that came out of this whole COVID-19 crisis is that we now recognize that agriculture is an essential business. That's really good to hear. Another part close to my heart always is immigration. And in this case, a lot of essential labor and a lot of essential employees are immigrants in many different shapes and forms. And the challenge, again, becomes an opportunity now to find a long-term solution for our immigration challenges that we have, based on a vision, a long-term vision for our country and our economy. And I want to close with a statement that a former president referred to our country as the shining city on a hill. And I still strongly believe that that's what we are living in at this time. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bert. We do have a question, and it is, did you have personally fear yourself in the middle of this, and how did you lead your team if you did have your own fearfulness of your own personal well-being as well as some of the others close to you?
You always have fear. It's not a matter that you can eliminate fear, but it's how you overcome the fear in your decisions. And I think that's very important to the employees that you're working with, that they see a way out. And there is a way out of this. We see that over time.
Okay. There's another question as well, and it's what permanent changes are you going to make with your supply chain post-COVID with Tri-Histral?
We, on our supply chain, I don't see a lot of changes. We haven't really experienced a lot of shortages in our supplies. You know, hand sanitizer, okay, those are relative, easy to solve problems. For the rest, agriculture pretty much continued. We got to grow food, so we got to keep looking at the overall picture and make sure that we have enough food.
Okay, great. And one more. We're going to go one more for you. Question is, do you think your experience not being a native of this country helped you know the United States would overcome these challenges?
This is the best country in the world. I have lived in different continents, different countries, and yeah, I think I have a little different perspective when it comes to dealing with challenges. If you move from one country to another continent and you pack your bags and your wife and 2 or 3 kids are with you, those are challenges and you learn to deal with those.
Okay, thank you very much. Bert, great having you here.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, we'd like to introduce Dr. John Bryant with the Henderson County Public School System. Good evening.
Thank you so very much, and thank you to my colleagues and to those who have shared words with us today. It certainly is a pleasure to be able to have an opportunity to share a little bit about the experiences that we've had in the education system, and certainly many of you have experienced over these periods that we all talk about the challenge of the now. As I was thinking about a message, what first came to mind for me was actually what used to happen when I would sit in the pew on the front row with my family as my father would be sharing a message on Sunday mornings with our congregation. And I remember him giving a particular message. As many folks know in this community, I am a card-carrying preacher's kid and proud of that. But he would often say, we have to remember that adversity doesn't build character. It simply reveals it. And I think leading in challenging times certainly illustrates the truth of those words and the power of those words. And so many of us recognize in these moments that challenge is exactly as Bert said. It's an opportunity. An expression I'm fond of is it's a problemtunity. It appears to be a problem, and it is an opportunity in disguise. And it's a chance for us to recognize that which is in front of us so that we might be better on the other side of it. We frequently talk about the challenge of the time, and it's the immersion and the transformation that may take place moving forward. In the educational system, one of the key tenets that we've been talking about as it relates to how we lead and how we serve a community is focusing on our sphere of control. Maybe one of the hardest elements for any of us to do is to recognize that many of the things that we're experiencing are not within our control. To recognize that, to acknowledge it, to accept it. Sometimes we go through the 7 stages of grief when that comes to mind. But what we have to say to ourselves is where we can be most effective, where we can best serve, how we can best help others, is to focus on that which we can control so that we can serve in that space. We're reminded of that in education because some of the decisions that have affected our operations were made at the state level. They were made at the national level. They're from the guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services. And we have to respect that those decisions were made and then work to adhere within those decisions. So that initial message is recognizing that sphere, understanding where it exists in our space, acknowledging that, and then identifying the opportunities that are in front of us. The second element that I might offer is that of honoring the individual in challenging times. If it's taught us anything during this most recent pandemic period, it is that every individual is experiencing it differently. And they're faced with unique things in their own lives, whether that be work or home or their experiences in our community. Specifically, I think about the 13,000 families that we seek to serve as educators in Henderson County Public Schools. 13,000 families who all feel very differently about what's best for their children, about how they can best be supported, what their comfort levels are with where their children are and who they're around. And that holds true for our employees, the men and women who serve those children. The best way I might describe it is if you took everybody's feelings about the challenge that we experience, you might lay them out on a graph and see that that is a wide spectrum of opinion. And everyone's opinion matters because it's theirs. It may not be your own, it may not be in line with how you think or you feel, but honoring the individual and the individual's right and the individual's journey in that experience is critical to leading during that time, to recognize that all of us are in a different place of comfort, readiness, and competence moving forward. As I reflected on this conversation, I also think about a documentary that I saw about Robert McNamara and the leadership of the United States government during war. And that documentary is entitled Fog of War, but what they talk about is the challenge of operating within the tyranny of the urgent. When we are faced with crisis right in front of us, urgent decision-making, urgent challenges, urgent changes of direction, and that we have to sometimes stop looking down and start looking up, that we have to get our head out of that fog so that we can see beyond just what is in front of us and recognize that, again, there is opportunity on the other side if we can pause for just a moment. A message that I cannot help but share in this moment as well when we think about leading in challenging times is the importance of trusting the talent around us. I can count myself, as so many of you can, so very fortunate to be surrounded by extraordinary people. People who answer the bell, who respond with their gifts and their talents as needed. When I think about the men and women who serve in education, I think about the innovation, the creativity, and the commitment that is taking place during this particular time. This relentless willingness to say, we will do more and be more, even when we have no script in front of us, that we will help to create that and tell that story. And the power of that we empower people and pour into them that they might give of the talent that they possess in a way that they can shape what that journey looks like moving forward. An expression that has been part of my leadership journey, and one that I think is maybe among the most powerful in our self-reflections when we think about how we serve others, is asking ourselves this very basic question. Am I an anchor or am I an oar? Am I holding this back or am I part of what it takes to move it forward? Because the easiest thing for us to do in challenging times is to become a barrier, to identify the reasons why we can't, why we won't, why we shouldn't. Leading and serving, making a community a better place as we all seek to do, is about saying, how can I be an oar? How can I help move this forward? How can I start with yes? How can I be a seeker of solutions first? And the extraordinary difference that makes for the direction of that boat. And finally, I would offer a message that is personally powerful to me and perhaps the most challenging for all of us. And that is to find a commitment around being where your feet are. There is so much that distracts us in the middle of challenge. The worry about tomorrow, the worry about next week, the worry again about that which we cannot control. Maybe the many things that are demanding our time and our attention and our energies. The gift of leading, serving, contributing in challenging times is being where your feet are, being present in that space, present with those people, with that decision, with that energy, and with that moment. I am so humbled and honored to serve in an educational system that believes in making Henderson County a better place. And I know the message that you've heard from others tonight and the work that each of you do in this community is about weaving that fabric stronger every day. And so I thank you for being able to share a few words with you this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Bryant. And we've got a question, and it really pertains to how has your day changed from January of 2020 to now? And also, what keeps you up at night?
Yes, sir.
And also, the dynamics that you think are something that you've worked on to be a better leader in these times.
I'm going to take those questions in order, if you don't mind.
Right.
I will start with what has changed. It might be easier to talk about what hasn't changed since January. It is us trying to determine how we can best serve students, recognizing that every element of their educational experience is different than it was before. Their home situations, their access to resources, their access to school, the time in which we believe and build the human relationship. Public education is founded on this principal belief that we want to connect with the human in order that we can serve the head. And an inability to do that, the challenges of doing that, finding ways to do that, have been critically important during this period of time. And so in that way, it has shifted immensely. And as we try to look forward to what that might be. The things that keep me up at night are the simple recognition that we cannot guarantee the protections and safety of every child and every adult who serve in our school system. There is no greater concern than that of being able to provide absolute protection. And I think that that's probably a shared fear in our workplaces, in our homes, and in our community, that we would be able to provide that. And I think that that connects as well to the way in which my journey has been shaped. I jokingly shared with some folks, I'm 8 days on the job right now, 8 days, but a career in education, and each day is a sharpening of that in terms of being a better listener to the work that's being done, being a better lead learner in terms of knowing how we can be better servants to the community and to the school system, and really attending to the fact that we've learned more about the places that we were effective pre-COVID and how we can be more effective educationally moving forward, and to hold fast to those lessons.
Okay. We've got a couple more questions for you, Dr.
Sure.
Wright. One is your father being a pastor,
Yes, sir.
the positivity that is exuded by our pastors and people of faith. How has that helped to sustain you, influence you, and be a leadership quality that you want others to exude as well?
Absolutely, and I think that that's so true. There is an extraordinary optimism that one can experience when you live with someone who serves that way and shares that message every Sunday. And that optimism is an absolute and unwavering belief in people, in who they are and who they can be, and our ability to serve each other in the human experience. And listening to my father from that front pew, as I mentioned, each and every day, I certainly believe has shaped my belief in each individual in our community and in our lives, and recognizing that it's that optimism that we want to share, that enthusiasm, that disposition of hope that says, we believe in better and we're going to be part of that.
Okay, great. We've got one more question. And what this really involves is the fact that we're all living in these uncertain times. How do you convey your own personal uncertainty, but also use it as a teaching tool to those that you lead?
So beautifully put in that respect. We talk about the teaching tool, the courage to say, I don't know, and that's okay. The resilience of the learning experience is accepting that you don't know it all. And you might have to fail forward many times. When we talk about what learning should look like, it's loud and it's messy and it's dirty and it's not always a clean finish. And I think the expectation sometimes is that we should all know the answers. I talk to parents all the time that talk about the fear of not knowing how to lead their child through the educational experience, and reminding them that's okay. It's okay, like you don't have to know all the answers, but we all have to have the courage to say, I don't know, but we're going to share that experience together. We're going to learn together. We're going to fail forward together. And the key is we're just not going to stop getting up.
Very good. Thank you very much.
My
We
pleasure.
appreciate your time
Thank you.
tonight. And next, we're going to have Dr. Laura Leatherwood with Blue Ridge Community College.
Thank you, Steve. And it is such a pleasure to be with everyone this evening, and I appreciate you taking the time. Like all of the leaders that you've heard from and all of you, it's a lifelong experience. It's a lifelong learning throughout our career. And I have to say, with the last 9 months has been the most professionally challenging in my 27-year career. So there's no playbook for what's happened to us. There's no playbook for how we should lead our colleges and universities or our businesses. We've never encountered this before. So the approach that I took tonight was to reflect back and think about what are the lessons that I learned over this last 9 months, that those are lessons that we could all take forward, that we could all think about and maybe incorporate into our business or to our work or even to leading our families. So lesson number 1, while you're managing the crisis, you also need to manage the future. So all crises are temporary. It's going to end. Now, we don't know when it's going to end, but it is going to end. And the decisions that you make today, sometimes you are so focused on getting through the moment, getting through the day, getting through the crisis, and making everything happen that you're not thinking about where you need to be when the crisis is over, when you emerge from the crisis. And I think about the situation here at the college, and a good example is when you look at the college is actually funded in arrears. So the students that are coming to us right now decides how much money we have for the following year. So if we had closed the college, we had no students sitting in our seats, we had no one here, and we didn't serve the community, there were people that are unemployed that really needed us, what I was looking at in the future was I was looking at next year not having the money to run the college. So I was focused on not only managing the crisis in front of me, but also managing the future. And that's a very hard thing to share with your employees, your students, while you're also trying to help them get through the crisis and just get through the day. So that was kind of lesson number one. Lesson number two, leadership lesson number two. Never judge or criticize other leaders until you've walked in their shoes. You just simply don't understand the dynamics that they're going through in decision making. It's very easy for us to judge other leaders based on our personal circumstances. I'm going to use Dr. Bryant, the school system. If you had children at the time that they were trying to make the decision in person, remote, if you had children, you had an opinion about what that decision should be. Well, we all make decisions day in and day out, and we know that we're never going to please 100% of the people, whether it's your employees, your patients, your customers, your students, your community. And the important thing is, though, until you've walked in that person's shoes and you've had to make that decision, we as leaders really should not judge them, that we need to have confidence in them, that they're making the best decision that's going to move their institution, their organization, their business forward. And we should be lifting each other up. I think that's really important. Lesson number 3 is to use the crisis to make necessary and innovative changes to your organization. I think you heard earlier from Bert about innovation and that opportunity. When you're in a crisis, there's no better opportunity to really switch things up, to do some innovative things. Organizations like schools, colleges, hospitals, we are notorious and we are totally resistant to change. Even my employees will tell you that. We tend to do things the way we've always done them, and we dig our heels in, and we don't like that significant change. So a crisis really opens up the opportunity for you to do some small changes, and some of them will be very, very transparent because you're so focused on keeping your employees safe, keeping your students safe, keeping your organization open, just really kind of helping the community, that you can slip some small changes in there and people won't even know it. But then there's also some significant things that you can do. You can switch some stuff up. You can take some barriers away. It's really easy in a crisis to recognize that, oh my goodness, that's a barrier for a student. That's a barrier for an employee. Why in the world would we do that? We're in a crisis. Let's go ahead and just kind of get that out of the way right now. And before you know it, we're like, why weren't we doing that to begin with? So I think that regardless of what your business is, small, large, a great number of employees, not, I think that there are lots of ways to use this opportunity to do things different, to take some risk. Now, at the college, we try to create an entrepreneurial culture. And what that means is that we want our employees to step out and try something new, try something different, implement or add a new technology. But what you need to be able to do as a leader is to be able to catch them when they fail, when they fall. So if you make it safe for them to step out and try and help them understand that you got them and that you're behind them, then you'd be surprised how innovative you could possibly be. So I think that would be lesson number 3. Lesson number 4 is sometimes you have to change your leadership style. Many of you know me. I have very high expectations for myself. I have high expectations for my colleagues, for my leadership team, for my employees. But when you move from a situation into a situation like we've been in with COVID-19, it's okay to say, you know what, my style might need to change. My expectations right now in the middle of the crisis may be impossible to meet. So I probably need to take a step back, and I need to say, you know what, let's press pause for just a minute. Let's take a deep breath. and let's try to get through what we need to get through. Now, I think that that's great to say to people, your employees and your students, let's take a deep breath, we'll get through this. But in my mind as a leader, I'm looking to the future. And if you're a business owner, you need to emerge from this crisis. You have two options. You emerge strong from this crisis and positioned to move forward and be successful, or you emerge weak. And the decisions that you make in the middle of the crisis, as tough as they may be, you have to have that future in mind. That's really important. So those are just some things that were lessons for me over the last 9 months. So I kind of want to wrap all this up. I want to talk about and mention some things that I heard from all of our speakers. Resilience, caring for people, whether they're your employees, your customers, your students, your patients, your donors, protecting people. It's like putting a puzzle together. We've all experienced that. Protecting the community. It's not just about our organizations, but it's about everybody that surrounds us and supports us. No need to buy any toilet paper. Challenge is an opportunity. Pull the weeds and keep fertilizing. Keep your head clear. The balance between fate and fear. Innovation. Motivate people. Be thankful. Let the positive drive your leadership. Celebrate success. Sphere of control. Focus on what you can control, not what you can't. Honoring the individual, and everyone goes through this situation feeling very different. Everyone matters, and trust the talent around you. And I think those are a lot of the things that we all have experienced, that we all try to do. But I think that if we can remember that, even in the middle of a crisis, no matter how hard it is, it could be a personal crisis, it could be a societal crisis like we're in right now, I think that we will all emerge much stronger. And as leaders, I think the last point I would make is that let's lift each other up. You know, Dr. Bryant, who you just saw, was going through a crisis about a week ago, not even his first day on the job. And I just sent him a text, hang in there. And I felt like that I needed to lift him up in a time where it was very, very difficult for him. So lift each other up, let's help each other grow, and that we'll all emerge much stronger. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Leatherwood. We have a couple questions for you.
Okay.
And the first one is, you've got a large demographic, a large diverse group that you serve. And you have a lot of competing interests and a lot of competing needs. How did you manage all of that? And did one group or one particular idea control your thoughts as you managed that broad, diverse group that you have to take care of?
Well, I think that, let me just start by saying that you decide what's not negotiable. And what is not negotiable, you've heard that from everyone else, is that what's not negotiable is the health and safety of the people that you serve, your students, your employees, and your community. However, sometimes there's some conflict there. A good example, we'll own this one. A good example is we were approached by Party and Emergency Management to be the first drive-through COVID-19 testing center on our campus. And I was approached by the county, Jimmy Brissy with Emergency Management, and Party Hospital. And my immediate reaction was, they need us. This is something that we should do. That was a challenge. It was great, and we needed to do it for the community. And we didn't know where COVID-19, and at that time we were all kind of panicked about what was going to happen and how detrimental this disease was going to be. So we needed somewhere to test, and the college had the site. We were mostly remote at that point in time. But the challenge to that is that the employees that we had on our campus really felt like that then we were putting them at risk by having people on our campus that potentially were sick. And so balancing the needs of the community, the needs of our employees was very, very difficult. Was it the right thing to do? It absolutely was. But those are constantly things that we're balancing. And you also, you have to balance the needs of the entire community. We also have Transylvania County that we do as well. So it is a constant balancing act. But I will say that we have a great team. We're all in this together. Matter of fact, there's a team supporting this event tonight. And everybody pulled together, and we're going to emerge very strong.
All right, we have another question. And you had mentioned that you didn't close for business and that you pivoted. And so the question revolves around that pivot. Do you feel it was successful, and what have you learned from that pivot as you move forward?
Well, in March, again, the governor kind of made the decision for us that we would take anything any type of lecture class that we could move to online, we would move that online. That was pretty easy because the college, we've been in online business for 30 years. That wasn't new to us. The challenge is that we had our local community, we had our hospitals that we needed more nurses, we needed nurse aides, we needed paramedics, we needed EMTs. We needed to provide the workforce to respond to the pandemic at the same time. And so we were able to, we had permission to continue to do that face-to-face. We were very successful at that. And in May, within 60 days, when the governor moved us to the next phase and we were getting better, we were able to start bringing people back. I think a lesson from that is that people are up to the challenge. If you give them the resources, the technology, the space, the training to help them and the support to get to where you need to be, they can get there. And so really trust the people that you surround yourself, trust your employees, they know what they're doing, support them. And again, when we kind of miss the mark a little bit, then we adjust and you learn from your mistakes.
We have one more question for you. This has been a very fearful event for everyone. How did you deal with that personally, and what strength did you garner to get through some of your fearful times?
Well, at first, again, there were a lot of unknowns, and as many of you, as you watch television, and the more you watch television, the more you heard about it, the more anxious you become. So I think that you have to control your emotions when you're in a leadership position and you have, and in my case, I had 500 employees looking to me to help us get through this. So the last thing that I needed to do was exhibit that I was personally out of control. But I say all that to say is that my personal meltdown happened at home, and that's okay. It's okay to have your personal meltdown. But when I'm here, they're looking to me to be strong and help to lead this college through this difficult time. So we've had to have some discussions with employees about managing your emotions. And fortunately, I'm able to do that. But I do think that I used some personal strategies. Exercise was huge for me. I thought I got to get on my bike, or I've got to do something to get rid of some of this energy so I can clear my head. And you heard that earlier from Bert. You need to clear your head and determine what's your priority and stay focused on that priority and bring people along with you and help them to understand why that's important. And I had my own personal meltdown too. So.
Well, there's a little more to add to that.
Okay.
Do you think your culture here at your organization played a strong role in how you were able to deal with this?
We're a family, like many of your businesses, and I would say the school system too. We're a family. We're a family in itself, and I would also say that this community is very family-oriented and very, we're kind of all in this rowing together. I do think that culture plays a very, very important role. And it's not just one person. It's all 500 people at this institution that helped get us through that.
All right, great. Thank you, Dr. Leatherwood. And after Dr. Leatherwood leaves, we'll have Bob Williford, the president of the Henderson County Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Steve. I'm the president of the Henderson County Chamber of Commerce and also a 1998 graduate of Vision Henderson County. And I do have the honor of giving you some closing comments tonight, and we just need to take care of a few things. First is to recognize and thank our speakers today. Our community is very fortunate to have these leaders in education, in agribusiness, in industry, and in healthcare, and I think our community is a better place because of their leadership. Second is to challenge each and all of you listening tonight to join them and volunteer and lead in our community to continue to keep Henderson County the great place that it is. And if you have trouble looking for opportunities to volunteer and get involved, just call me, because we need your help at the Chamber, and we could use your help with the Vision Alumni Association. And third, I want to thank Kimberly Clark. Kimberly Clark has stepped forward. They sponsor Vision Henderson County Alumni Association events throughout the year. A fantastic supporter. And finally, the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in the fourth quarter, and we're going to win this game. The vaccine is on the way, and what we need to do is maintain, bear down, be smart, and we'll get out of this quicker rather than later. Finally, happy holidays and be safe. Thank you.